Our next session, information, fresh out. Rethink and redesign your visitor center first. I'd like to welcome to the stage Douglas Ralston, President and CEO of True Omni, and Brennan, Deputy Director of Alabama Tourism Department.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. I'm all mic'd up. We're going to sit down and relax. I know Gray's been standing on the floor all day, so appreciate it. One thing I did want to say is thanks to all the customers that are participating, and Gray taking his time today. You know, it's just great as a product. Someone who builds products is to really see people how they really use it and how customers use it. It's just fantastic, and as a product builder, there's nothing better. So thanks, Gray.
Thank you.
So ultimately, I'm going to talk about this idea of the visitor center. I've talked about this before. I think we all understand visitor centers have to evolve. The way that people engage has changed. All of the things that we already understand, but it just hasn't trickled down to most visitor centers and that visitor experience in destination. It's a huge topic. I'm going to just do kind of a high level because I want Gray to talk about his new visitor center and how the state of Alabama is really starting to rethink how they really build visitor centers and how they engage through content and all this great information. But first, let me tell you a little bit about what we do and our small piece of this component. So True Omni is a platform. It's a platform that integrates and connects to all types of systems. So your CRM, your CMS, your point of sale, CrowdRiff, Bandwango, 360 Threshold. We take all these great experiences that you currently use and you have in your systems, and we push those out to interactive kiosks, digital signage, video walls, and mobile. And this is about, remember, a connected experience about how people are engaging these days. So this is about truly rethinking how you want to, provide your brand and connect with your visitors in the destination. At True Omni, we are focused on in-destination experience. It's what we do. It's what we love. And so ultimately, as you start to think about this and rethink how you're doing and engaging with visitors as they come into the destination, there's some things you want to know. So I'm just going to kind of high level it. First and foremost, make sure that it integrates with your systems and that these systems will automatically update so that you're not having to spend a lot of time managing these new types of products. We're talking about hardware solutions. So anybody who implements these type of solutions, although our software will work on existing product, typically we're providing the hardware and installing everything, supporting it and managing it for our customers. So ultimately, it's about really making sure that it integrates and it works. And hey, guess what? It also works offline because most visitor centers have slow internet. So you have to consider these type of things when you're looking at this type of technology inside a center or in an airport or in any type of high traffic area. And ultimately, as you look through this, it's about really deciding what that experience is going to be like for your destination or your state. And really understanding that there's a lot of ancillary benefits that come with these type of solutions. Data and analytics, new revenue and channels. I was talking to Robert from MMGY. We really started to focus on this idea of the omni-channel, and this idea of really multiple channels throughout the destination. There's so much opportunity in that realm. So as you're starting to think about this, along with how your marketing team and your brand, kind of disseminates down into your visitor experience and your visitor centers, this is kind of that first step to do it. So this is the world we live in. If you guys take a look at this slide, of course, there's an interactive component to what we do, and it has interactive maps, and it has itinerary building, and it has all these different types of features, photo booth, you name it. And you get to kind of decide how you want to construct this. These are tools for visitors, but they're also tools for staff members. It's about really recreating this experience. Think about retail, think about the mall, think about all the things that you experience and really what that interaction is. And Ray's going to talk a little bit about that because I think he has a really good mindset on really thinking about retail and attracting people into your visitor center. So ultimately, this is what we do. We power interactive screens. We power video walls and digital signage. We push CrowdRiff UGC. We push all these different types of, events and information to these type of screens so you can obviously engage, so people understand what's happening inside your destination, and then ultimately ways that we can open up new opportunities, both for our stakeholders and ways to really understand what's really happening within these locations at events, at visitor centers, and so on and so forth. So this is really the core, right, of what we really try to help organizations with. So as you're going through this process, It's really about thinking in kind of 3 different buckets. This is kind of how we've kind of refined this into a conversation piece. So ultimately, visitor experience. What happens when that person lands in the airport? How do they know what to do? What kind of information are they getting? If they're going into regions, or there's got great programs that you've got through trails or way to disseminate people through the destination so they really understand all the things there are to do, not just go to one location. And ultimately look at ways that you can use this technology to drive efficiency or engagement. Of course, being able to share digitally via email or text from a lot of these interactive screens helps. And then opening up this omni-channel experience, this multi-device experience. And just so you guys understand, I'm not talking about your responsive website. They're great, they're awesome, but they're not something somebody's going to use in destination. When you look at what we're doing with Alabama, it's really about the experience from the minute you walk in the visitor center, from also when you take the mobile product with you, and new ways that you can connect and engage. So we're talking about opening up these channels and looking at better marketing data and trying to build these places where traditionally there hasn't been a lot of content. So ultimately, as it kind of goes from the experience into the marketing side, then last but not least is really about this destination and brand engagement. So of course, we talk a lot about stewardship, in this industry, and how do we get more information to our stakeholders, and how do we drive more value? We talk about sustainability. So hey, how about maybe converting a paper guest book to digital? Maybe. Yeah. Or ultimately how we want to share brochures or provide ticketing or reservations. These are all things that can connect from a brand perspective all the way down to how somebody engages. So that's kind of the overview, and Gray's going to share. We're going to show some pictures of his soon-to-be visitor center. Now, if you guys have ever built anything from the ground up, you understand there's always challenges and delays. So Gray's probably got lots of gray hairs from doing this, but ultimately he's going to talk a little bit, and we'll show some pictures as he goes through it. Go ahead, Gray.
Thank you. Thank you, Doug, and thank you very much for letting me speak here today. Yes, it has been a long experience. It took almost a decade for the Alabama Department of Transportation to provide a new visitor center in one of our locations. And during that time, our thought process changed completely. And so when they unveiled our new center, based upon plans done many years prior, we discovered that we really need to rethink what we were doing. It wasn't enough just to take a new space and put our old brochures in there and our Welcome Center people and expect it to really respond. How best could we increase our worth as an industry to the visitors? Mainly, we said, what we really have is a storefront. And we have millions of people who stop there to use a restroom that really didn't think about coming in to talk to our employees. So the main thing we want to do is to bring them into that storefront to engage with us. And that was the first thing we had to think about. The second was that we had different generations of people. So some were very familiar with electronics, others just really despised electronics. So we had to develop a space that we could have 350 different printed brochures and give all that information to someone who really didn't want to carry away something to put in their pocket and then later throw away in the trash and just clutter up their car. So this was our brand new storefront, and the goal, number one, was just to draw someone in. And so as you can see, we did a large video wall that could be seen from outside the window. There are no doors. Those are kind of like mall stores where the doors roll up, so it's easy to walk in. And as you go forward, you first pass the printed material. And then you go deeper into the room where the video wall stands. And as you do that, you pass our 2 kiosks that you can interact with. And we view those as both something that someone could work with independently, or one of our staff members could walk over and give them information and quickly show where it is on the kiosk. And that's kind of our plan. More people, not necessarily stopping at the Welcome Center, but more people who stop at the Welcome Center coming in to engage with our people and find the information. And that's, to us, that's what it's all about, is providing information to the visitor moving forward.
Well, so Gray, I know that through the design process you had to work with AL they call it, and getting that design process through. And originally we had helped you kind of design this flow pattern, but then you had to go and find a kind of a government-approved design company. So was there anything on the design side that you would like to share, or anything that might help people as they're trying to think about design?
First, I'd like to say is don't believe what anyone tells you. So our ALDOT department just, told us that they were giving us this room, and whatever we wanted to do in it was okay. So we waited until it was built, because I said, if you'll just wait until it's built, then you can just move in, do what you want. So we waited, it was built, it's now an empty shell, and we presented the plan. We said, well, as a courtesy, I guess we should tell them what we're about to do. They looked at the plan and said, yeah, we hate that you can't do it. I said, well, you just told me, 3 months ago, whatever you want to do is okay. So we had to back up and start all over again. We hired a local design firm. We invited ALDOT to the very first meeting. We discussed all the complaints I'd never heard before as to what to do, and we came up with this design. Some of those were, they did not want any rack card furniture mounted to the walls, next to the walls. They decided their walls were pretty, and we weren't to put any rack cards there. So we had to take all the rack card information, put it in the center of the room, and then also design a way that it would not fall down in case someone crashed into it at high speeds running for some unknown reason. So you notice the curve there is not only kind of appealing to the eye, but makes it so the rack furniture doesn't fall down. The second thing is, they said the video wall that we wanted was absolutely beautiful, but they thought that the wall that we were about to mount it to would just crumble. And I said, really? That cement wall is going to crumble if we put a TV screen on it? And they said, yes, it wasn't built for those TV screens. It will crumble. You cannot do that. So we said, okay, no problem. We need to figure out another solution. So if you notice, this kind of like a bump out. That's like a fake wall in front of a wall, so that we could build a wall so we could put our 16 monitors on it so it wouldn't crumble their design, and put it there. So we were fully prepared that they were going to worry about everything falling down. We had a second meeting, we presented this, and they said, well, we like it. We'll have to see engineering drawings and all, but, this now solves a lot of the problems. And I was fully prepared for them to say, to bolt this fake wall to the real wall, we will have to anchor it at, 100 different points so it doesn't fall down. Amazingly, they then said, yeah, so how many times are you going to anchor that to the wall? Because, our wall is kind of delicate. And I'm thinking, well, it doesn't crumble, and now it's like the most delicate wall in the world, and perhaps we can't even anchor our fake wall to your real wall. And so that's kind of like the non-technical problems that you suddenly run into that you never dreamt of that you're going to do before. So it is interesting working with a whole nother department who has trained themselves. The best thing they can do is tell you no. Whereas our department, tourism, we train everyone. It doesn't matter what you want. The answer is yes. We'll figure out how to do it later. And I'm optimistic that this plan will go forward because we think that it does everything that we want it to do. Draws the people in, engages them with our employees. If you don't want to be engaged with an employee, it self-directs them to see interesting things on the screen, has a kiosk so they can learn things themselves, and has the 350 rack cards and brochures that we have from across the state displayed in a nice way to interact. And that's our goal.
Good. Well said. Well, I know we've only got a couple more minutes here, but ultimately, when you get into any project like this, it's always, interesting. From our perspective, of course, we install everything. We help with the parts we can, but planning and early planning helps a lot. Getting everybody involved and all the stakeholders helps a lot. And just really pushing that vision. It does require that you really think through it and you have a vision of what you want to do. Some of the things that I'll just kind of go over real quick, Gray, I have to go back because this was a little bit out of order, but let me see if I can go back. Yep. So ultimately, the core on some of the technology is obviously some of the kiosks, as Gray was talking about. There's definitely lots of options from that perspective, and you find the one that really best suits what you're trying to accomplish. Gray you got lots of Bandwango trails, so we're going to be promoting a lot of those, and a lot of the campaigns and things we want to push through there. And then ultimately, we're talking about doing digital brochures, or that's a module that Gray's activated, and ultimately looking at ways so they can share those brochures, and that stakeholders, and some of the stakeholders is either providing or maybe not providing the brochures like they used to. There's a way to do that. And of course, a better way to provide data and engagement, as well as people counters and other things that we're doing, all consolidated through our Omni platform. But ultimately, you have to look and see what experience really works best for you. This is where Gray kind of ended up. Obviously, you saw his beautiful video walls. That was all these guys doing. But ultimately, we're just in the final pieces of getting this all laid out. But this is, in essence, what most visitor centers and most organizations that are forward thinking and are thinking about what the future is going to look like, these are the type of things that they're looking to engage. The good news is it's not like you have to do heavy lifting. It should all integrate with how you're doing your business now, how you're updating your content now. So it gives you lots of different options to do so. So that's all the time we have. But thank you, Gray, and thanks for sharing your good stories. I love Southern stories. Come on. But if there's any questions I can ask, obviously from True Omni, and I'm sure Gray will be here and on the floor at IPW, and happy to talk with you. So thanks again for eTourism and Will and everybody, and you guys have a great rest of the show. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Douglas and Gray. Really great information on how to reimagine the visitor center. We appreciate it. We're going to keep rolling. We got one more session before our networking break. So we're going to roll this video from Waymack and crew, and we'll be back in a minute.